here.
Awesome.
All
Awesome.
right.
Let's
Awesome.
go.
So, guys, I very much appreciate you all being here today. It is super, super important for us to have these kind of opportunities. Our spectators now are all founders as well. Some of them are want to learn some of the topics on how to keep your remote teams at peak performance. That's the main subject today. But also want to learn from you guys, your experience working with remote teams before developing your products. So the idea behind this is that we want to make this as a discussion panel, as the name of the event. So I will be sending some questions, and then the idea is that you guys will be able to answer them and jump in if you want to add or comment on someone's answer. The idea here is that we all be flexible enough to be sharing our information, our experiences, and complement each opinion. So first of all, I would like to start by just giving a quick intro to our company, Symbiosis. We're a marketplace for connecting tech companies here in the States with software engineers that are currently working at small dev shops across Latin America. And well, then basically what we want to do now is to invite our guest speakers to introduce themselves, to tell us a little bit about their backgrounds and also about their companies. And then we will start with some questions that I prepared for you guys. And at the end, we have a Q&A section for the last 10 minutes. And the idea is that all the attendees will be able to ask you guys some questions. So Justin, let's start with you. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and also about your company?
Yeah, so my name is Justin Kline, and I am a co-founder of a company called Markely that I started back in 2012. And we build influencer marketing technology, and we also act as an agency to brands and other advertising and marketing agencies. And yeah, and that's my short story.
Awesome, awesome. Great. And you, Rafa?
My name is Rafa Pereira. I am the CTO of Onebrief and a Capital Factory mentor. I started the company just short of 2 years ago, early 2009. We make a planning software for the military. Our first customer is the Air Force.
Awesome. And how about you, Sterling?
Yes, I am Sterling Smith. I am the founder of actually two companies. One company is called Launch Partner, and it's an agency that helps non-technical subject matter experts build their minimum viable product. And for that, we leverage some Colombian developers. And then my second company is a company called Sandbox Commerce, which is really my main squeeze these days. And effectively what Sandbox Commerce is it's a no-code platform that helps Shopify and BigCommerce retailers who sell products using those platforms to power their e-commerce web experience. We help them drag and drop their way to building a native app that really helps them engage with shoppers in the 21st century. And they can build an app using our platform in less than 15 minutes.
Perfect. That's awesome. That's great. Okay. Well, awesome, guys. We will start right away with the questions. The main question. We have 5 main questions today, and the idea, like I mentioned before, is that we will follow the same order. I will start with you, Justin, and after 1 or 2 minutes of answering the question, the other 2 guest speakers will be able to also complement that first answer and also answer with their own experiences. So the idea is that we'll create some kind of a discussion panel right now. So the first question is, how did you develop the first version of your digital product, Justin?
So me and my co-founder, Raf Noor, we built it ourselves.
Okay. And are you a technical founder then?
Yes.
Okay.
We're both technical. And I was technical for a few years beforehand, and then I pretty much learned the rest on the job. And just picked the brains of a lot of really smart engineers. And Raf, he actually has like a computer science background. So, I'm a sponge. So I just asked a lot of questions and figured it out. And now I'm pretty savvy.
Okay, awesome, awesome. And you think that that background helped you to also hire the first person there later on? I imagine that you start growing your team inside the US or outside of it, or how did that happen?
Yeah, I mean, candidly, we kept it pretty lean on like the engineering side. We just bootstrapped it, and yeah, we've been pretty solid. With the way that we had everything structured, and now we're at a point to where we can start outsourcing a bit. And yes, I think that our backgrounds definitely have helped us manage a remote engineering team, and it'll help us scale it out as well because we have a lot of experience building these types of tools, uh, and yeah, and I think that our backgrounds in advertising technology before we even started this kind of adds a cool flavor to what we're doing now.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Great, great. Okay, and how about you, Rafa? How did you develop the first version of your digital product?
I was smiling because it's a very similar story.
Really?
I just I just did it. We were two founders. I'm the only technical one, so I didn't, like have a partner coding it all up.
Okay.
But I did it myself until very recent, actually, when we began hiring.
Okay, okay. And what was that trigger for you to start hiring other people?
Um, yeah, we like to run lean. So for me, the real indicator of when you should, like start to think about growing the company, hiring people is uh, any trustworthy sign that you have found the traction or the real interest behind what you're trying to create, right?
Right.
So when we started to see more excitement from the part of our customers, when they were able to speak themselves of the value of what we were creating and we didn't have to sell it as hard, um, when the demand, like and the pace at which I needed to develop wasn't, like when I could sustain alone anymore, that those became the reason why I thought hiring was a good idea.
Okay.
Um, so kind of like do it yourself until you can't anymore in the early stage is probably a simple way to put it.
Correct, correct, correct. And then you look for talent inside the United States or outside of it. How was that process?
For the most part, we're agnostic. Like wherever there's a really good person, like with the skills and profile that we're looking for, we're game. We're
Okay.
not very attached to geography. But we also, like look at places where we know we can get good talent for a slightly lower rate than we would pay here in the US. So
Correct.
we currently have a hybrid model, like half of us are in the US, the other half in Brazil.
Perfect. Perfect. Great. Great. Okay. And Sterling, how about you? How did you develop the first version of your product?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I started an agency first, launch partner, and it was actually an independent consultancy first, and then ended up, as Rafa mentioned, having like couldn't do all the work myself at a point, and so ended up finding my first hire, which is a non-technical hire on Twitter, just through a referral. I'm like, hey, I need to hire a person to help me with this, and someone in my Twitter feed was like, "Oh, you should talk to." I got a couple people, but I ended up hiring a guy named Dylan, and he stuck with me for 6 years with my
Okay.
first company. And then whenever it was time to build my first product, Sandbox, I just ended up bringing over my lead developer that
Okay.
I'd hired for my first company, and he and I have been together working for 7 years, 6 years, I think, almost 7 years now. Um, and then from there, yeah, I believe that, you know, how much traction can we make without having a huge headcount? Like that's something that I think is a sign of, that's how I measure success. I don't really think headcount necessarily is indicative or the best indicator for success.
Okay.
But yeah, that's um, how we built the product initially.
Correct, correct, correct. That's very interesting. And this is like an open question for you three. What will be what will you change now with your experience? If you could be back in time, what would you do differently than what you did? Who wants to be first?
Can go first. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
It's funny because the way that I did this time, not that I had started companies before, but I worked for, like large and small companies, and I had seen it done in different ways, like starting with a large headcount from the beginning, um, or hiring just in the US or hiring just abroad. Um, and I feel like if I were to do it again, I would do the way that I did this last time. So I feel like I've applied my lessons learned. I mean, I've been working in this industry for 20 years now.
Okay.
So I feel like I've applied them successfully this time, right? So um, exactly like our friends here said, like start lean, uh, work towards traction, only trust traction to tell you that, like something real is happening here. And when you can't do the job anymore, begin hiring people. So that
Yep.
was the model I applied, and I'm very happy with it.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Okay. Okay.
the only thing that I'll add there, or just kind of piggyback on Rafa, is, you know, not to hire salespeople too soon.
Okay.
Um, I tell you, that was probably the thing that whenever you ask me, that's the first thing that came to mind is, man, I think that we tried to get in front of customers too early.
Okay.
And partially, we're based in Austin, and part of the climate in Austin, um, for better or worse, is that we are kind of encouraged to show revenue super early, and some people have different opinions about it. It kind of differentiates the flavor of early stage startup between San Francisco and Austin, and other
Okay.
regions. But what I can say is that really kind of listening to advisors and mentors, is like, oh, okay, we need to really show traction earlier. And I think it kind of was the wrong decision for us, at least. So I
Okay.
would have probably held off on, putting our product in front of customers as early as we had, and just really focused on working with a smaller group of early adopters, and then kind of iterating based on their feedback for a little bit more time before we did that.
Mm. That's interesting because sometimes you hear people who say like launch your product as soon as possible and then learn from it. But sometimes it's better to stay like small and focus and then
Well,
grow that part, right?
and I agree, like you should launch it, but as an MVP. And I think an
Okay.
MVP for me is like putting it in front of someone in a very short period of time, but not putting it in front of everyone.
Correct.
And building the demand. And so, uh, yeah, we were like, oh, let's go make revenue, because in 18 months they want to see that we're doing at least $10,000 a month in recurring revenue, which is unrealistic for a lot of early stage companies.
It's
But
hard.
it's something to think about.
Awesome. Awesome, Sterling. And you, Justin,
Yeah, my,
what
my
will
video
change?
cut out. I'm trying to put it back on, but yeah, like I honestly, in hindsight, right? There's a million things I would change, but at the same time, you know, I don't think I would want to change anything because of all the learning experience, that all those mistakes kind of brought me. Uh, so I wouldn't change a thing because I wouldn't be the person that I am today, and I wouldn't have the experience that I have today without all the shitty mistakes I made, through the whole process of trying to build a company and product. So yeah, I wouldn't change a thing.
Okay, okay, yeah, it's good to know that part. Okay, and we have a third question here. It will be like, what will be your recommendations on how to scale your tech team now? You all mentioned, and this is very interesting, that you start by your own. You start building the first version of the product, and you start working, developing all the features that you have. But the thing is that now that you're growing your team and you're starting to hire people outside from the core team, how are you doing that? Are you hiring people, like you mentioned, outsourcing people? Are you keeping the core team in-house and then just outsourcing some tasks to other people outside of it. So can you tell us a little bit about more about that?
Yeah, I'll say that we're keeping the core team in house. I can say
Okay.
that, and we are contracting with outside um, contractors, and and with the intention of onboarding the cream of the crop. I think that's a good philosophy to have, and it's worked for us so far to date. And so that's how we're handling that.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. Perfect. And how about you, Rafa?
I mean, I haven't had to do it yet. We're a small company still, right? Like I was telling you, we're about to be 7. So I would consider, like anything below 10 or 20 to truly be scaling. Um,
Okay.
but as we think about, like when we'll need it, a couple of things that we're trying are a combination of like hiring people who are more local and closer to the core of the company as two founders, um, that in a way that we can like feel that we're in it together for the long run.
Mhm.
um, so that is one component. And I think the other component, something we can take advantage of, is the try before you buy, with a lot of people, right? So for as long as we are contracting people abroad and outside of the Austin area, um, in a lighter weight relationship in the beginning, we get to meet people, we get to try working together, we get a feel for it, like what we both like. And if it truly clicks, like it's people that we can bring on and make part of the core team too.
Okay.
um, so I think it's a combination of like having good partners for augmenting your team on a whim,
Mhm.
uh, and a smaller core that you're constantly curating.
Correct. Correct. Okay. Awesome. And how many engineers do you think you might need? How do you evaluate? Like you mentioned, like when you feel like you're overwhelmed with work, then you decide that you need to hire someone. But how many engineers do you need to? How do you define that number?
um, that's a good question. Um, it's gut. Honestly, there's
Okay.
no formula. We have, I mean, as many as you can, someone says. Um, I mean, there's some truth to that, but we're a very frugal and lean company, like as the two founders who we are. So we don't like to grow too fast. That is probably more true about us. Um, yeah, I don't have a simple answer here. I think it's gut, but because I've been doing it for so long, I kind of know.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And what
Mhm.
I can add there is that I'm kind of a computer science major and engineer by training and trade, and so I've learned, especially now being on the leadership side of agencies and product teams, is that you start incredibly lean, and so I typically like to have like either one full stack developer that starts a project, and then whenever we find out where the technical gaps or the skill gaps are, then augmenting with maybe a front end developer or one front end developer and one back end developer. And they kind of meet in the middle. But I
Okay.
typically don't like to scale up a team that's got I don't like to start any kind of project that's got 3 front end engineers, unless we're doing something that is we need to roll out a mobile app and a web app at the same time or something like that.
Okay.
But typically it's just like, one engineer that's either full stack or 2 engineers, one front end and one back end, who are kind of collaborating together, and then we can fill in the gaps as we progress. But that's a good starting point for me.
Okay. And it makes sense. I mean, like it is important to know, like you mentioned, if you stay focused on one task and one specific task, and then you start growing, it's like organically you start inviting more people to join your team in order to achieve
Yes.
that. Okay.
Yes.
And you, Justin, do you have any opinions or any comments on this part?
Yeah, I mean, I think, as far as the approach that we've been taking lately, I'm looking at compartmentalizing kind of what we outsource So like core product is kind of separate from that. Microservices or completely new standalone tools, that's kind of the main use case for us as far as outsourcing any engineering efforts.
Okay, okay. Awesome, awesome. Okay, now let's enter to one of the main questions for this discussion panel. And given that you all have experience with remote teams inside the US and outside of it, how do you keep them at peak performance? What is your recommendations on your hacks on how to keep these remote teams working at their best always? So what do you do for to keep them challenged and to keep them motivated as well on delivering an outstanding job?
Yeah,
I think it's all about
Oh, go ahead, Justin.
communication.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry about that.
No,
Yeah,
you got it, brother.
I think it's like communication, deadlines. I think you don't want to have too many meetings because that can actually cut into productivity. But I think it's just making sure that you're on each other's radar, and that they know whether they had a good day. At the end of the day, like there should be like a clear way of knowing whether it was a good day or a bad day.
Okay, perfect. And you, Sterling? Yeah.
Yeah, I was simply going to say that I like to, at the point in which we're outsourcing, especially near shore, or even, it's 2020, everywhere is near shore at this stage, as long as you are working around the same time frame. But also, I like to pair them with another, like a more senior developer on my team. And that senior developer on my team is collaborating with them to divide and conquer effectively. And so
Okay.
in daily, as we work on a regular basis to achieve milestones, right? Um, then everyone knows and has ownership of those milestones, and contractor or internal developer, it's the same thing. You're committing code where we have a QA tester that's testing the code. And on a daily basis, if one person has a question about another thing, they collaborate to solve these problems. And on a daily basis, we jump on a quick 15-minute call and discuss,
Okay.
the three questions: what did you complete? Any blockers? What are you working on today? Yeah.
Correct. So you think like being like having this communication with them on every day is kind of very, very important step to keep them like all well super focused on their own task, right? Like in that way.
Yeah, I think like a quick morning scrum, and then everything, a 15-minute scrum in the morning, and then everything else is chat. You discuss during quick chats, and then Thursday or Friday retro where you're talking about what worked and what didn't work that week, being
Okay.
with no real judgment, and then what are some broad objectives for the next sprint next week. That's kind of how I like to roll.
Correct. And have you experienced like any problems with these engineers? Because like, I mean, everything is nearshore right now, given that we're all well super connected right now. But the thing is that, have you experienced before problems with bad communications with them, or how's the downside of it?
No, I mean, I'll tell you, the folks that we're working with in Colombia are A plus, no
Okay,
problems. Yeah,
okay,
so, and it's partly because we have a very strong partner that provides us with people, and they help mitigate a lot of the things that would happen if you just hired someone from Upwork. They make sure that if someone put in their 2 week notice, that you have someone who is capable and can help to transition. And that's something that is gives a person who has other customers that they're responsible for too, and other folks, other external stakeholders. It gives
correct.
us the peace of mind that we're not going to really miss a beat, even if life happens, kind of thing.
Correct. Awesome. Okay, and you Rafa, how do you keep your team at peak performance?
So it's funny for us because the types of relationships that we have with contractors is by design the same as we have with our employees. I I mentioned to you that our model today is to hire them directly. So there is no partner in between. There is no liaison. Uh, the agreement they have is directly with us. And at this early stage, like they have equity, just like like a full-time employee living in Austin would have. So when I speak about like keeping them engaged, I'm going to be speaking about keeping the 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 folks who are remote and perhaps not in the U.S. and the folks who are in the U.S. just like as one group of employees who need to be happy. Um,
Okay.
and and generally speaking, like the way we like to do that is first leading with the why. Like if everybody has plenty of context
Okay.
around what it is that we're investing on, what tasks they can contribute to it, and why they can make more independent decisions and feel like they belong. Um, the second one is constant feedback to make sure that there's time with some regularity to talk about things outside of work that matter to them as
Hmm.
individual professionals wanting to get better. And then lastly, which has been quite transformative for us, is to fix the dynamics of everybody just being on Zoom remote and never like face to face. Use a lot more pairing sessions, right?
Okay. Right.
You mentioned that like between the more senior, the less senior person, we're kind of like doing it all around the horn. Like it doesn't matter. It's just two people who are doing related work. They like just pair program for a good 4 hours every day.
Okay.
Sometimes it's two coders, sometimes it's a coder and the designer. It doesn't matter. To just have like that feel that someone's really there with you. Like, and
Mm.
to have a high quality collaboration that is not as rushed as most of our meetings are, has really been tremendous for us. So that's it. Like the education on the domain or developing the context, leading with the why is one ingredient. Constant
Okay.
feedback and pairing sessions.
That's awesome. That's awesome, Rafa. It's great that you share this with us because I believe that one of the main problems people have is that sometimes, given that we're all working remotely right now, we feel kind of alone. So in a certain way, it is good to know that you're working with another team members and they are there for you as well. So you are able to communicate with them and show your progress with your team. That's kind of interesting, very, very useful. I have one last question before we jump on the QA section with the audience. Um, Given that you all start working remotely before the pandemic and you're still working remotely, how do you guys imagine the future of remote work or work in general? It will continue to be remotely after the pandemic. Do you think that this is accelerating the way that we are used to work? How do you feel about the future of work?
Yeah, I mean, I'll jump in. I think, look, remote work is going to increasingly become something that people are going to gravitate towards.
Okay.
I think, obviously the pandemic accelerated the need to work remotely. And I think that big companies even are starting to realize that, they don't even need big offices anymore. It's an expense that is not necessary. I also think at the same time, though, that, being in person with other people, depending on what you're working on, can boost productivity and it can inspire others, and some people might learn better and get better work done when they're in person. So I think that there's always going to be a place for remote work, but at the same time,
I feel
there's
like
always going to
Justin,
be
I feel like we're having
a place
a lot of trouble
for
hearing you.
in-person work
Do you
as
guys
well.
hear him right or not?
No,
Hello?
it's all yeah, a
It's
little
the same.
choppy, a little
Yeah.
choppy. But
I'm sorry.
I heard the gist of it. I heard the gist of it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
sorry
I
about that. I'm
nope, nope.
like,
No, I can recap for you really quick.
yeah,
I
I
can recap for you.
mean, basically, I
Justin, yeah,
think it's
we can hear you.
always going to be relevant. Yeah. Uh,
Yeah. So I think that what he was trying, I think that what he's trying to say is
all right.
that like in-person work, people
Yeah.
still want to work
You know what? I'm sorry. I'm out and about.
I'm sorry for this,
Yeah.
guys.
no
Justin,
problem.
yeah. Uh,
Yeah, so I think he's saying that people are still going to want to work together in some occasions, but this COVID, this pandemic has likely accelerated the trend toward remote work and flexible work. I'll tell you, piggybacking on what he said, that I just came back from spending a month in Mexico, in
okay.
Tulum and in Mexico City, and all I really needed was my backpack with my laptop and my iPad, a coffee mug, extra backup charger, headphones, and I was good to go. Like a strong internet connection is key. And so just like being in the same time zone as where I'm based in Austin, I think that people are truly going to they're going to appreciate the quality of life that they can enjoy as long as they are responsible professionals and get their work done. And I think that's the trend that people in our industry, which is IT and services, will be able to take advantage of. Now, I think that there's a conversation that we probably don't have time to have today around people who are not in the information age, so to speak, that are experiencing a completely different type of existence right now.
Right.
But as it relates to the context of this call, I think that I think that you're right. I think that the trend toward hiring based on geography, especially if you're in the same time zone, is a huge advantage for companies like ours because, as Rafa mentioned earlier, it allows you to kind of, optimize for your budget and allows you to continue to. No, I think I pretty much completed my thought, and I think I'll let Rafa have the last word. Just saying that again, I think that it's just accelerating what was happening already, and I think that I think we're about to hopefully experience the best of both worlds because a lot of the people that were a part of the old school have come around to seeing the advantages of productivity and capability that remote work allows. And I'll let you have the last word on that, Rafa, if you have any other comments.
Very little to say because I really agree with your perspective there that it's uh, that's an optimistic one. Like I think most people are really asking this question right now and hoping to get a black and white answer that's like like yes, everybody's just going to work from home from now on, and that's not really true. But it's helped everybody see what it's like. So for people who like wanted to and were afraid to ask, for people who were against it because they didn't know what it's like, everybody has now like had a chance to try it for real, to try it enough. And I think that's going to bring a lot of balance. And like the more balance there is, I don't know, the greater the benefits, from productivity to morale to I don't know, even the environment, right? With the pollution of the commuting and things like that, the use of space and office space. So I think all in all, it's great that we were forced to have this opportunity. It's just going to accelerate something. It's not going to change it, like for just one kind or the other kind.
Okay. Okay. I agree with you guys on this part. We have one question on the from the audience, and they ask us about non-technical profiles, meaning like what would be like the next steps for them in order to get started. Like what would be your recommendation on how for a non-technical founder to start building a software product, and does it make sense to work with remote engineers since day one? In that matter?
Yeah, I can take it first, Rafi, if you're cool with it, because
Go ahead.
I have a pretty good interesting opinion here. I think that if you're a non-technical, what I call subject matter expert, um, I would say that you have three options. You can either hire a freelancer, hire an agency, or hire a full-time engineer slash find a technical co-founder. And there may be some options in between there, but those are the three. And there are pros and cons to each. Um, there are pros and cons to each. If you hire a freelancer, if they get hit by a bus, then it may completely derail productivity. If you hire an agency, it's gonna be more expensive, but you'll have some redundancy there. But they may not feel like they have a sense of ownership of your product, which sometimes is reflected in the final product or outcome.
Okay.
But typically that's not the case. And then the third is if you hire a co-founder, then you're giving up more equity, but you can typically save some money. But there's everything that goes with bringing on a co-founder or a full-time employee. It's going to be a lot more expensive. And so depending upon your budget and your risk profile, your risk tolerance, you would likely make a decision, one or three of those decisions. Like I, being the owner of an agency, have a bias toward hiring an agency. But the reality is that it really depends on your risk profile and your budget, frankly. What I would say is that you can certainly start a business if you're non-technical. You just have to be a little bit more industrious to work to solve the same types of problems that you're going to be faced with in 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 5 years as a founder and executor of your business. And so this is just one of the first problems you kind of have to solve. But if you want to talk more about that offline, then you can tweet me. I'm at Sterling Smith on Twitter, and we can find some time to chat more about it.
Awesome, awesome. Rafa, any comments on this?
Yeah, I think if we're talking about a true technology company, like a true software company, I think I have a more radical opinion on that, which is the only way to go with this is with a technical co-founder, and you need that relatively early. And I say relatively early just because if all you're doing, like if it is so early that you don't even know that your idea has legs, if you're working on experiments to validate aspects of your hypothesis, and you need maybe a prototype of a product, and there I'm talking true prototype, not even an MVP, then maybe, like at that stage, you would, use no-code software, or you would use some hired help. But the moment that you're certain you're going to go forward, I think for a true software company, it's only with a technical co-founder. And it's one of those things, like you're giving up equity, but the speed at which you have to move, the fact that it is truly hard work, and a couple other things, make me a believer that that's the only path, really.
Correct. Okay.
That's it.
Okay. And well, we have one just last question from the audience, and then we're done with this event. In salaries and wages, what impact will remote work will have? So how do you feel like this remote the new deal that we have now will affect the salaries from your employees?
I would say that I believe that it will. I think on average, I think salaries will increase because I think there's going to be more value placed on finding the best talent wherever they are, and I think that employers are going to care less about where you are and the standard of living, and way more on what you bring to the table. But there may be a discount to some of the people who were paid on the higher end of the spectrum, but I think it kind of will average out to be higher salaries across the board, even for people who are not based in the United States.
Okay. That's interesting, and I agree with you. I feel like it seems like it's difficult to perceive things like that, but it makes sense now that you mentioned, right? Like you will start valuing more the productivity instead of just having someone hitting on, working for some specific task in that matter.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I think more of the real market dynamics at play, right? Because you have easier access, easier ways to create equilibrium between demand and supply. So things that now feel more like artificial scarcity, like just wanting someone in a specific geography go away, right? And that should bring some more equilibrium.
Okay. Perfect, Rafa, with that part. Well, I guess this is it. Thank you very much, Rafa and Sterling, for being with us today. It was very, very informative. All the information you shared with us, it was very, very important. I believe that the audience really, really appreciate that you spend time with us and share your experience. It is great to hear from experienced founders and mentors like you. I will be sending all just a recap of this conversation, this discussion panel to all the attendees as well by email. So I don't know, you guys have like any last comments to this session?
No, just thanks for. I forgot to tell you guys thanks for inviting me to participate. It's an honor. Certainly hope that I was able to provide any insights. If anyone wants to figure out how to get a hold of me after this call to continue any of the threads that we covered today, my website is simply sterlingsmith.dev. So, there's a form you can reach out, or you can find me on social. It's also listed on my website too. But again, hey guys, thanks for having me here today. Appreciate you.
Yeah, no, thanks for that, Sterling. I don't know if you will be able to post that on the chat, because some people are asking. Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
I'll do it now.
Awesome. And Rafa, any last comments on this session?
No, thank you so much. This was really fun. And I posted my handle. It's the same on whichever network you prefer to get in touch with me through, like Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. Good luck, everybody.
Okay, awesome. Well, we all appreciate a lot your time, guys, and hope you have a good day. Stay safe.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye-bye.